Hey everyone, welcome back to the second video on my series on retiring in Mexico City. I spent a month here checking out the best neighborhoods, and today we're diving into Condesa. This was actually my home base for the entire stay, and I can't wait to show you around. I'll give you an apartment tour and share some insights I learned about living here. Stick around until the end to find out why Condesa actually isn't my top pick for retirement in Mexico City. Before I arrived in Mexico City, I did a lot of research on a lot of neighborhoods, and I found out that Condesa is actually one of Mexico City's most popular neighborhoods for expats and retirees. So I thought, that's where I gotta go. It does have a lot to offer, from beautiful parks and great food and convenient amenities. And like all of Mexico, hopefully you watched my first one on Mexico City, so you learned all about the visa requirements and just how affordable it is. That way you can dive into just focusing on Condesa. All right, so let's get into some details about Condesa. This neighborhood covers an area of about 3 square kilometers, making it quite walkable, which I love, and easy to explore. There's a few major streets and a couple of major subways, so let's get into it. When it comes to public transportation, Condesa is well connected. The major metro stops serving this area are Chapultepec. I know I did not say it correctly. I'm going to put it on the screen. This is basically line 1, and then there's Chilpancingo. So embarrassing. Here for a month, I cannot learn a language. Basically line 9, and I will be definitely talking about prices later, but let me just say a little bit more about the subways. 1, it connects you to all of Mexico City, not just Condesa. Super affordable, 5 pesos, which is about 30 cents. And I'm currently traveling solo. They have a women's only section. If you're a child under 12 or a woman traveling alone, they have a car just for you. And that really came in handy, especially when it was super, super busy. It was always a little less crowded there. All right, so Condesa is home to about 40,000 residents, and a significant percentage of them are actually expats. It's estimated about 10 to 15% of people living in Condesa are actually expats. So there's going to be plenty of people that you can get to know as you're learning the language. There's probably already somebody here speaking your language. So it has a lot of local charm, international appeal, and it has become a favorite spot for many looking to retire in Mexico. But it's always important to weigh pros and cons. And like I said, I had a lot of time to deep dive into this neighborhood living here for a month, as well as the other ones I'm going to share in upcoming videos. All right, so let's get a little bit more into the area. I want to really focus the bulk of this video on the neighborhood vibe. And that's what sometimes isn't captured in these videos. We kind of go, here's a great restaurant and here's this iconic site to see, but if you're looking to retire someone, you really want to know what it feels like. I do think Condesa has a good mix of Mexico City and maybe Western familiarities. For example, the apartment I'm staying in, right downstairs is a Starbucks. I'm a Coca-Cola drinker, not a coffee drinker, but that's a good example of maybe the best of both worlds for some people. What I will say is one of the first things you're going to notice is the abundance of green spaces. Mexico Park and España Park, these are the heart of the neighborhood, and they're huge. These are perfect for morning jogs. Never jogged a day in my life. I don't know why that was the first thing I said. What I should say is walk your dog. If you don't have a dog, I don't know if they'll actually let you into Condesa. There are so many dogs and the dog walkers, and oh, I just love it. I can go there every morning and just sit at the dog park and watch all the dogs play, or relax there with a book. You'll often see people practicing yoga, families enjoying picnics, musicians playing under the trees. It's lively, but it's very relaxing at the same time, and I think that really defines Condesa. The streets here are wide, very walkable, and lined with trees. So when it is getting warm out, you can always find that shade cover. It's beautiful. Amsterdam Avenue, which is one of the main streets, it's got this sort of unique oval shape, and this is very popular for walking and cycling. There are also plenty of bike rentals, so you can just sort of grab a bike and then drop it at the next spot. if you're tired of walking. And they have dedicated bike paths on many of the streets, and they're wide. This is a great way to get around the neighborhood, get to the grocery store, and get some exercise. Condesa is also known for fantastic cafes and restaurants. Basically, you cannot walk a whole block without hitting 2 or 3 of them. There are some cozy spots where you can grab fresh juice, a healthy breakfast, not go to McDonald's. I did go there a lot less. The ones around me don't open till later in the day, and I am very much a Coca-Cola in the morning kind of a person. And then when I did go, anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. There's also upscale dining, and there's something for everyone. The streets are dotted with a mix of what I would say trendy and traditional eateries. So a lot of street food, tacos, but there's also more trendy items. So you can find a range of cuisines, and you'll never get bored. You could never have to cook, and there's always something to find. And like I said, it's affordable, so you can be very experimental. The one thing I'm not with food. For book lovers, Condesa has some great options. There is a local library. It's so cute. It's this quiet little haven. And then the El Pendulo bookstore is beautiful, and there's a cafe upstairs. So it's very much a cultural hub, and you can just browse books, enjoy a cup of coffee. So it's a great place to spend an afternoon. And then when it comes to shopping, you're well covered. The Mercado Condesa offers fresh produce, a variety of local goods, while the Superama Condesa, actually, I never went there just because where I'm located. I ended up going to the Walmart Express, but basically, huge grocery store, anything you need, they have it at very affordable prices and within walking distance. So overall, it is, it's a very community-oriented lifestyle, plenty of green spaces. You'll start to recognize your neighbors because they'll be out walking their dogs, they'll be sitting at the cafes, and then you can jump on the subway and explore any part of Mexico City you want. So let's get into what is probably the most important part, is the housing options. Now, let's talk the housing options in Condesa. One of the great things about this neighborhood is the variety of housing available. You'll find everything from the sleek modern apartments to charming traditional buildings, all within that relatively small area. I also want to show you an apartment I stayed on. This happened to be on Alfonso Reyes, and this is a good example of a modern, well-equipped apartment you can find here. It had everything I needed, was a great location. It was close to the Line 9 metro, close to Parque Mexico and Parque España, and plenty of shops. And like I said, the Walmart Express, I think 0.3 of a kilometer away. All right, let's take a look. All right. As you can see, there are lots of these modern buildings, but for those who love a little bit of history and character, Condesa has plenty of traditional buildings too. These older structures often feature beautiful architectural details and have a unique charm that's hard to find in the newer developments. Some of these buildings overlook the parks, offering stunning views and peaceful atmospheres. There are a lot of buildings surrounding both parks, everything from modern high-rises with glass or balconies to the more traditional and architecturally interesting buildings. In terms of pricing, it is worth noting that Condesa tends to be slightly higher than other parts of Mexico City. You're paying for the location, right? The amenities, that overall quality of life. However, compared to US prices, it's still quite affordable, especially for what you get, right? In terms of the conveniences, the community, the walkability, it's really a good value. So whether you're looking for a modern apartment with amenities or a traditional home with character, Condesa does have something to offer. And that means you can fit any budget also. So it does make it a very appealing choice for expats and retirees. So now that we've covered the housing, let's take a look at some of the other conveniences that make living in Condesa so attractive. So what I want to do here is I want to dive a little bit deeper into the cost of living in Condesa. One of the biggest advantages of living here is the affordability, especially compared to the US. For example, I said it earlier, taking the subway only costs 5 pesos per trip. That's about 30 cents in terms of a US dollar. Uber rides are also very affordable. Most trips are under 200 pesos, which is under $10. And then when it comes to groceries, you'll find that basic items are about a third of the cost, if not less than that, to US. If you're shopping at local markets, that'll really stretch your budget. Now, if you are wanting McDonald's and Shake Shack and Starbucks, they are slightly less expensive, but really not that much. I think I did have lunch at Starbucks. I did have lunch at Shake Shack like my first or second day here. I was in a really big mall that has every store you can imagine. Anyways, and I want to say it was like $14. I mean, it was very similar to home. So if you're trying to replicate your life at home but in a different place, you're not going to see the same budget stretch. So that's important, although why would you leave home? But anyways, overall, housing, routine medical procedures, food, especially if you eat local, and transportation are a fraction of the cost that you're going to find in the US. This makes Condesa and Mexico City in general a very attractive option for retirees looking for a high quality of life without breaking the bank. So now that we've covered those living costs, let's move on to the pros and cons of choosing Condesa, this neighborhood in particular, for your retirement. I always start with the pros. One of the biggest advantages of Condesa is the green spaces. With Parque Mexico and Parque España right in the neighborhood, you have access to beautiful parks, relaxation, exercise. It really changes the ambiance. You're living in a tropical place and you feel it. There are plants and greenery everywhere. It is also a neighborhood that is very walkable and bike friendly. I don't think I'll ever get on a bike, but it's there. The wide tree-lined streets, not the street, so the streets are like this and then the walkways in between. It just makes it so easy to get around, go do your grocery shopping, just sit on a bench and people watch, read a book. There is a great variety of cafes, restaurants, shops. So whether you're looking for a casual spot or a much more upscale dining experience, Condesa has it. It is also very well connected by public transportation, whether you're taking the metro or the bus. You can explore all parts of Mexico City with just a short walk, hop on a subway, hop on a bus, or take an Uber, all very affordable. There is a very strong sense of community here. I think within my first week, I was already nodding to neighbors and practicing really terrible Spanish. And I think there's a good mix of locals and expats, which create that welcoming environment. All right, for potential cons or drawbacks, I do think it can be a little bit more expensive compared to other neighborhoods in Mexico City. And I think you're paying a premium for the location and the amenities. So that might not necessarily be a con, it's just something to be aware of. The area, probably should have been the top of my list, can get quite busy, especially on the weekends. If you're looking for a quieter, more laid-back environment, this might be a consideration. So you saw a lot of houses that were around the parks. You saw my apartment tour with a wall of windows. Well, when those windows are open to let the breeze in, you also hear the guy playing his guitar, the people talking when they're walking their dogs, the music coming out of the cafe downstairs. You get the idea. You can't call this place quiet. If that's your thing, it's awesome. And then while there is plenty of local dining options, international chains like the Starbucks and the McDonald's, it's really not much cheaper than the US. So if you feel like, oh, I'm really going to miss if I don't have those things, it's just, again, something to put in the budget and consider. Despite these cons, I think Condesa has a lot to offer. It's a fantastic neighborhood, and it definitely has a charm about it. So while Condesa might not be my #1 choice, it definitely has a lot going for it. I hope you found this video helpful. Make sure to check out the rest of the series, and stay tuned to discover what is my top pick for retirement in Mexico City. As always, thank you so much for taking the time to watch. See you in the next one.